much talk around the offseason has been about the marriage between their first-year head coach Ben Johnson and their second-year quarterback Caleb Williams. I want you to listen to both of them talking yesterday about how they are approaching this camp and this season and how different it sounds.
Obviously, I have self-goals, and that's, being the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history. That's a, goal of mine, 70% completion. That helps the team, keeps us on the field, puts us in better positions. And then other than that, just trying to go down and, score the most points that we can with each drive that we have. So, that's kind of my self-goal, and obviously other than that, you got to go win.
There were some footwork things that we wanted to clean up, trusting the timing of your feet, being able to anticipate throws. It's a lot of stuff that goes into that position, and rather than throwing the whole gauntlet at them, we're just building it from the ground up.
So those two things didn't sound similar to one another. In fact, as soon as Caleb started talking, Nick, I saw you react out of the corner of my eye. What was that reaction?
I mean, it just was, it's obvious to me that he's giving the media and the fans something to grab onto, which, he understands how it works. He knows what we want to hear, but it backfires. That always backfires. It seems to me that what he needs to be focused on, and he probably is focused on these things, but he's telling us another thing. But it just is it's a scary thing to hear when your quarterback is coming out there telling everybody his statistical goals.
Yeah, I'm not going to assume that he's focused on those things, though, just because, Ben Johnson said them. I mean, I want to hear Caleb Williams say the fact that, hey, you know what? I'm not going to talk about being the first 4K passer. I'm not going to talk about 4,000 yards. I'm not going to talk about 25, 30 passes, whatever over-unders you want to put on TV. I'm not going to talk about none of that. What I am going to talk about is the fact that, guess what? Ben Johnson and my quarterback coach sat me down and said, this is how we're going to watch film. This is how we're going to start practice. This is what I want you to concentrate on 3, 5, and 7-step drop. This is how the routes are going to distribute. This is how it's going to convert against cover 2, against cover 3. These are the things that are going to help you go bing, bang, boom. To the next thing you know, you got a 300-yard game, a 400-yard game, a 275-yard game, no sacks, no unnecessary sacks, throw the ball away. Talk about the process. Because at the end of the year, Bears fans, I mean, you can speak for them better than anybody. We'll sit there and go, hey, man, we don't need to hear about any of these proclamations early on now. Just tell us about how you're going to not take sacks, know how the offense is going to be run, and how you're going to win football games. That's it.
It sounds like young Caleb is watching the A block of Get Up along with Jerry Jones. Because the 4,000 yards, it's just so specific, and I feel like that's been the conversation surrounding him and what are the expectations now that he's paired with Ben Johnson. You saw how Ben Johnson, as soon as he started talking, it was kind of boring. You're like, okay, because he's talking about the really rudimentary, basic stuff. Ben Johnson is obsessive about the details. And that's where Caleb has to be. I think if Caleb, I don't want to hear about the goals. I kind of just want Caleb to be competent in an offense, to by season end, master that offense, look comfortable, know what a defense is trying to do to him, know where to go with the football. Those are the things, even his pro day. I remember scouts and GMs said, I just want to see him do the basic stuff. We know he can do all the flashy stuff. I want to see him do the basic stuff. And so far in his NFL career, Caleb, that needs to be his focus, the basics.
That's right. Now, look, to be fair to him, he was probably asked, and so he answered a question, and that's fine. No one is sitting here saying, oh, this is a terrible thing for him to say. But what I do know, and this is sort of an old thing that golfers talk about all the time, you don't stand on the first tee thinking to yourself, I want to shoot 68 today. Right. You stand on the first tee thinking, I need to hit a good shot right here. And then the next one, and then the next one, and on it goes. And it sounds from what the coach is saying, like they're tearing him down to the studs. Yeah. Right? If they're working on the footwork, they're tearing it down to the very beginning.
I think also, though, in Caleb's defense, it's the things that you tell the media are not all the things that are in your head. Right. And I think that lots of players do write down personal goals and think about personal goals. Yes. I think what we have quibbled with is that he's sharing that not as much, or what we want him to be sharing is the quarterback speak that we've grown accustomed to. When someone asks you, what are your personal goals? Whether you have them or not, you're supposed to say, I'm not worried about that. I just want to do the best I can for my team and make sure we win. And so, we understand that you can have those goals and still be going and focusing on those little things, but this is part of the game. We're in a new era where it feels like players are being a little bit more open and honest, and we don't always like what we hear.
You just hope behind the scenes, though, he's carrying out what Ben's talking about, that he really is obsessive about those things. Because sometimes, look, Don, we played with guys who have these grandiose expectations of themselves. Then you're sitting there and you're going, but damn, aren't you the last one in the weight room? Weren't you the last one to walk into the meeting room? And you're talking about all these things you want to do and you can't figure out why you aren't getting them? Like that's what you just hope that he's paying attention to.
And when it comes to footwork, just because we had a whole long conversation about it this morning, you were making the point, when you got to San Francisco early in your career, what was Mike Holmgren focused on?
I mean, it was about footwork. It was about speed away from center. Like, look, this is what the pacing
and
of
who
the drop
quarterbacks?
they look like. Steve Young, Joe Montana. They're being pretty good dudes. I mean, they wound up playing some pretty good football in their career. And who were the wide receivers? Jerry Rice and John Taylor. I mean, that's what everything was about, was the timing. So, I mean, look, Ben is on the right track. I'm not sitting here questioning him. I just hope Caleb is as well.
Yeah.
It's not going to be about those numbers at the end of the day.
If he's doing
and
the
in
basics.
Fairness, he talked about a variety of different things. Those are the things, to your point, that are going to wind up people are going to latch onto. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer. Well, that's one of his goals. This show about Micah Parsons and his contract situation in Dallas, all that is weird and generally awful. But the Cowboys' offense might be outstanding. For the first time yesterday, Dak took the field with his old weapon, CeeDee Lamb, and his new weapon, George Pickens, the former Steeler, who was expecting big things this season. Listen to this.
CeeDee's a certain type of guy, then I'm a certain type of guy. So when you mesh that together, it's like Mario Bros. You see what I mean? So, like, we definitely could do something special.
Okay, so the other day, Ryan Clark was sitting right here, and he said outside of Cincinnati, this could be the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver in the entire NFL. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons I'm so frustrated with the Jerry Jones, Micah Parsons stuff is that I've been sitting here trying to beat the drum to what I believe, which is I think the Cowboys are going to be way better than people think. Vegas hates them. Vegas thinks they're going to be awful. They're over-under in win total is 7.5, which is, I think, preposterously low. If George Pickens plays the way George Pickens can play, I think the Cowboys' offense could be outstanding.
That's because, and I think what Vegas is looking at, and some of the things that concern me again is like, look, when we look at Dallas from the outside in, we sit there and they go, hey, they can match up with anyone.
Right.
But football isn't won from the outside in. It's really run from the inside out. So to me, look, first of all, I mean, are we really banking on the fact that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott's just going to be kumbaya all year long?
No.
For 17 weeks? No. I'm not betting on that. Look, my focus is on this. Look, this offensive line, they have a lot invested in this offensive line in terms of draft picks. That, to me, is where it starts. The defensive line, the bully ball that they always get faced with in November and December that we sit here on Get Up, that everyone's watching, right, and formulating some of the things they're going to say on TV. People are going to be talking internally and around the league come November and December if Dallas is getting run through again defensively like they are every single year. And George Pickens can't line up there. Okay, so like to me, I don't think we're discounting them. I don't think we're not giving them enough credit. I just think that we're not, actually, I don't think we're focusing on the areas that really need to improve.
And some of the defensive issues were scheme related, but some of it is like situation related. This is how George Pickens can help them stop the run, is by scoring and getting up early, which is like when the Cowboys were at their best, it was because Dak was healthy, and they were putting up points, and that D-line was a pass rushing problem. And that would be the recipe. I agree wholeheartedly with Lewis, is like the issues are up front. That's how they're going to win. But if they can score early and get good leads, it puts them in a position to be able to put the opposing offense in a one-dimensional situation.
I think last year you saw that their option was CeeDee. It's like if they can't run the ball, okay, Dak is gonna throw it to CeeDee. Now you have a 1-2 punch. Like the question about will it revitalize Dak? I don't think Dak needed revitalization. I just think he needed more weapons at his disposal, and he has that right. And to stay healthy, I think offensively, you don't worry about them too much, but again, to me, the defense is the issue.
Lewis, the last time Dak Prescott played a full season healthy, which was the year before last, he threw for 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 picks, and finished second in the MVP voting. And they've added a guy who you would think in a contract year, if he's ever going to get it done, it's going to be now. I think they have a chance to be pretty explosive.
Yeah, I think they have a chance too, Greeny. Look, I'm not discounting George Pickens' talent at all. I just think, look, there's a lot of things that could go wrong with this. And I'm not just talking about on paper, because on paper it looks great. On paper they have three first-round picks on this offensive line, all by the name of Tyler too. So all of those guys, if they all come through, this offense could be a juggernaut. There's no question it could be. But again, if we're saying, could Dak throw for 5,000 yards this year? Of course he could. Of course he could. But we're looking at this bigger picture, man.
There's a reason George Pickens is on this football team.
That's true too. That's what I'm saying.
What do you mean by that? Because I could take it two ways.
Well,
and that
the
he's not in
talent is
Pittsburgh?
not
Right.
the question with this guy. He is supremely talented. But if Mike Tomlin felt like in this environment we can't make this work, we're giving him to Dallas. Like, there are reasons. So Lewis's hesitation, it's not pessimism. It's sort of like we have to wait and see how these two gel together.
I sat in a TV production meeting where Mike Tomlin chastised Dan Orlovsky for asking about George Pickens and why George Pickens wasn't maybe being reprimanded a little bit harsher. And Mike, in no uncertain terms, said, hey, look, you don't give up on talent like this at this point. So trust me, he knew what he had on his hands, too, as far as the upside of this young man. So you're right. For them to finally say, that's it.
Hold on. How did Dan respond?
Okay.
He just got punked like that?
Okay, Mike, you're right.
You're right,
I'm not
Mike.
trying to put Dan out there because we were like, whoa.